So let's go on, dear friends. We have now a panel, and this is moderated by Stefanie Söhnchen, Vice President Digital and member of the management team at Piabo Communications. Please give her a warm welcome.
Hello, everybody. We're a bit early. We were very quick. I hope we catch this up by you asking lots of questions in the upcoming panel. I don't know about you. If you feel anything like me, you are probably a bit fed up with people telling you Germany is lagging behind, we cannot catch up, everything is bad, we are not making the right decisions. We are done with that. So this panel is all about good news from Germany, some hope, some Aufbruchsstimmung, some Ärmeln hochkrempeln. That is the spirit we want to infuse today. And I brought three really exceptional panelists with me that I would like to introduce to you. And probably you already know them because they are all very much ingrained in the European AI community. First off, ladies first, I brought Vanessa Kahn. She's a leading advocate. You can already come and you can give her a hand, and then wherever you want. She's a leading advocate for responsible AI and European sovereignty. She is one of the most influential voices in the European AI community with a very deep understanding, which you will see, of the technology, but also with a strong commitment to policy and societal impact of AI. Currently, her role is Managing Director for Data and AI at Accenture, where she advises companies across the DACH region how to implement AI solutions so they don't only scale, but are also ethical and responsible. She's also playing a key role in the European AI dialogue as the managing director of the German AI Association, which is one of the largest European AI networks. She co-launched the European AI Forum, where she unites 10 international AI associations, and she founded the AI Academy, which brings AI literacy to the broader public. Also, she was named 30 under 30 by Forbes. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you, Stefanie.
Next one on our panel is Markus Hacker, who is an enterprise AI leader who is driving industrial simulation and digital twin innovation at NVIDIA. He is one of the industry leaders who turns vision into simulation by fusing AI, graphics, and data into real-world applications. His current role is Senior Regional Director Enterprise Business DACH at NVIDIA. There, since 2019, he has been at the forefront of the expansion into industrial AI, digital twins, and edge computing, which accelerates digital transformations. That makes him a bit of a translator between deep tech and enterprise value for topics like omniverse, simulation, and AI-based inference. He began his career at Microsoft's data center operations, and he worked at Akamai, T-Systems, and Lionbridge, and that makes him a key connector in the industry. He sees AI as a force of resilience, agility, and sustainability. And now, last but not least, and many of him know him probably, is Carsten Kraus, who is a tech... Yeah, go on. Sure. He's a tech visionary and AI entrepreneur in the ethical sphere, and he's a true pioneer. He's one of the people who has been driving breakthrough innovations for over 3 decades. Even as a teenager, he coded a programming language that was 70 times faster than Atari Basic at the time. He is the founder and CEO of Casablanca AI and CK Holding, and also he founded several companies, among them Omicron, which gave rise to FactFinder, which is now one of the leading AI-powered e-commerce search platforms in Europe. With Casablanca AI, he is looking into subtler challenges, like restoring natural eye contact in video calls. Also, he's a strategic investor and mentor, and was named Business Angel of the Year in Germany 2024. His mission is to build an AI ecosystem that is sovereign, transparent, and guided by ethics. You already know my name is Stefanie Söhnchen and I'll be the host of this panel for you for the next 45 minutes. We have agreed that we enjoy panels the most that are a bit interactive, so if you feel like asking questions in the middle of it, feel free to do that. Then we can come forward and include you if you would like. So at first we decided we are sick of what we call the German grumpiness, yeah? Making everything look maybe worse than it is, and this is also what the panel is about. So we start a little bit with a positive note on how you guys think we can overcome German grumpiness. How can we have a more positive mindset towards innovation, technology, and especially AI? Who wants to start? Markus, you're looking at me like you have an idea.
Happy to start. So, first of all, thank you for the very comprehensive introduction of all of us and for the very positive emotional opening of the panel that you did. And let's work on keeping up that spirit. To answer your question, I think there is many things that we can do. But one thing that actually jumped into my mind earlier today, which is, first of all, we need to stop to compare. We are still always comparing. We are comparing how much is US planning to invest into Stargate? How much faster was DeepSeek? On how many GPUs was it trained? Is it, how more efficient is it, right? We are comparing a lot. And this country, is this ahead of us in digitalization or not? Or are we ahead or are we behind? We are steadily comparing, almost like my two kids, right? We have two boys. 3 and 7, turning 4 and 8 shortly, they are always comparing. If you give them a glass of juice, not water, they don't care about water. But if you give them 2 glasses of juice, they're putting the glasses next to each other, and like a pharmacy grade scale, they're comparing if they have the same amount of juice in the glass. Let's stop that.
Yeah, comparing is at the root of unhappiness. Even in yoga, you're not supposed to stay with yourself.
I'm not so much into yoga. I'm too hectic for that.
Or juice, yeah, or juice. The same thing.
But let's focus on the strengths that we have, and we have good stuff happening in Germany.
We will get to that in a minute.
We just had a great presentation of Stefan. I don't want to shoot all the powder in the beginning. We have great stuff happening in Germany. We have Carsten, with his endeavors. We have DeepL. We have Black Forest Labs. There are a lot of good stuff happening. Let's focus down to what we can do, to our strengths, and to our, to that good old engineering strengths that we also have in Germany.
Let's stop looking at other people's juice. Got it.
Good.
Carsten, what's your idea?
So I think the most important thing is not to overcome grumpiness, but to overcome German angst. Because we're much too afraid of everything. And so in the past, Germany has done a lot of things overcoming angst. So like in the 30 Years' War, there were muskets. Maybe you remember those old guns. And actually every 200th of the muskets exploded during a fight. So one of 200 people died because the musket exploded, the own weapon exploded.
Let's get to the place where we stop being angsty.
Yes, no, the point is, if you wouldn't have had the muskets, you would have lost the war, and everybody dies. In the 30 Years' War, it was just like they killed everybody, yes? So, not like today. So sometimes things are so important, and it's so important to just be on the verge of technology, on the new technology. Sometimes it's so important that you have to overcome even a risk which is not a small risk, even which could risk lives in sometimes. China has had 200 hospitals who have to use AI for almost everything. They just announced one hospital where there are 42 AI doctors. Of course, the AIs will do some mistakes.
So do humans.
But in 2 years, 5 years, whatever, maybe in 1 year even, the AI will make a lot of better decisions than the doctors, probably, or at least support the doctors in a way that currently it cannot.
So be less scared of taking a risk.
Absolutely.
I think
that's
we
the
should
point.
turn this angst into FOMO, into fear of missing
Yes,
out.
that's a good
that
angst.
Would be a bad channeling of that
Exactly.
angst. Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Vanessa, how do you think we can overcome German grumpiness?
So I think complaining is easy, right? That's the easy way we took. And I think looking back, we just came from Thomas Jatzombeck's kind of policy work and policy reach out. We discussed, actually, even in this arena here, a lot on what we don't have and what we have to achieve. And I think this gave us a lot of movement over the last couple of years. I just actually came back from San Francisco 2 weeks ago, and I was shocked because I talked to a lot of scale-ups there and a lot of investors, and this narrative has actually reached different borders, right? So they have asked me on like broad scale, that was the #1 question that came, is Europe the place to build AI companies? Is it the place to invest in AI companies? And are the DAX companies actually able to make this transformation? And this is all down because I think all of us discussed the EU AI Act so loudly that they now think, okay, the USA is innovating, Europe is regulating, and China might be copying, even though this is, I think, transitioning with DeepSeek and so on coming on. But I think this whole stance on, okay, we're just the ones regulating is very, very toxic on a global scale. And that really shocked me, actually, being there.
But are they asking it also with, like, they seem to have it on the map, that it could be the place to build it, right? That's the positive grain in that question. Is it really a skeptical question they're asking, or because they are actually considering it?
Because they were considering it, I would think, and they're not considering it too much anymore because they think nothing really is happening despite regulation. And I think this is also down to us as an AI ecosystem going abroad and discussing with a lot of investors, with other startups, and so on. And I think that's really down to the root, a cause problem, right? So we have to solve this.
It's good news that we have ambassadors like you who go out there and tell them you're wrong.
But let's focus on kind of, there's a lot of good things happening here, right? You called up the KI-Bundesverband, for example. Just a couple of weeks ago, the KI-Bundesverband launched a message. There's now 500 companies within the German AI Association. I think there's more around than 600K in AI startups actually in Germany, and they're very much focusing on vertical SaaS, which if you go to San Francisco, where a lot are kind of looking to for investor relations, right? They are actually right now going away from very general applications in AI and looking at how can vertical SaaS really solve the root problems within our industry. And we have these problems at our hands, right? We have all these SMEs that are classical kind of manufacturing companies. We have all the DAX companies that are engineers and have really built up a lot for us. We're still like 4th place when it comes to the gross national product, right? So we're talking things down quite a lot, and I think this is where AI can really help within the niche. And this is where, when you talk to the entrepreneurs here, we really have a major strength that we're bringing to the table that's also interesting to a lot of investors out there, because they know exactly this, basically the infrastructure hypothesis that worked with cloud, that you're building applications based on cloud that were generating a lot of revenue, is not working now in the AI field. So we saw a lot of like general applications coming out that aren't actually raising this revenue that I think a lot of investors wanted to see. And I think this is where a lot are now looking into the niche, looking into vertical SaaS as a solution, and that's one of the strengths.
But that's actually really good news, right? That means we, just by our nature and basically by the value legacy of being engineers and looking into details and looking into manufacturing issues, we might be onto something. Maybe we can also look at, if you agree with that, or if you see there's other things that are already there. Do you want to say something to that, Carsten?
So I would say, yes, it's a strength that we have this engineering path, or past, and also the path maybe for some people in the future. But the thing is, we have to combine this, and we have to not focus too much on the engineering path, because the Six Sigma idea, so prove everything until it's really, really safe, until it's really, really secure, until everything really, really works, is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because it takes too much time. And we have to combine the two. We have to somehow get into this new world where you just build a proof of concept which works in 90% of the time, and 10% it fails dramatically, but you can prove that you can do something, and then you get the investors. And the investors also have to understand that some technologies are so transformative for the industry that you have to invest at a stage where they don't make any revenues. And so it's my first time I'm currently going into an investor round. So in Casablanca, I invested 3.5 million myself. Now, about half of the investors are saying, yes, so how much is your revenue? And it's not important because we built some fundamental new technology, which can be put into a lot of products, but we've built some fundamental new technology. And the investors have to understand that, the banks have to understand that, and also the employees have to understand it, so that they don't want to fix everything until it's sealed and everything is completely ready.
But then that's easy to say for you, Cas,
Yes.
because you have a track record as well, right? You have done this before,
Yes.
right? So that you can have some trust in advance, but a lot of people will probably say that. So the question is also, what other track records do we see in Germany? Markus, like maybe you have some ideas. What are other track records where we can build this trust? Because what I'm hearing is there's a lack of trust from investors, from banks, maybe even from your own people, that it's moving fast enough, good enough, you know, secure enough.
No, that's the key thing. Is rather like it's not moving fast enough. That's not the trust they're missing. They're missing the trust. It's not finished enough.
It's not perfect enough.
Yeah, it's not perfect enough, and
Ah.
that's not the right.
Attitude.
So I mean, we became strong in Germany because we built everything so perfect in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and because but these were different times. Things were not so fast. Nowadays, when you see the news in AI, everything changes every few weeks, and you have to be fast to win, and everything else will not work. If you are slow, you will not win. You have to combine the two strengths, because in the end, you have to have a product that works 99.9 something % of the time. But at the time when you build it, you have to go ahead even when you're only 90% correct and you fail miserably in 10% of the cases.
Back to you, Markus. What do you see that is fast and trustworthy, that we can have
I
a
thought I can
positive
escape that
exam?
question.
No, you cannot. Go ahead. I'm curious what you'll say.
So let me try to answer that a little bit differently and also connect it to what Carsten just said. I think that there is two fundamental ways how we can look at AI and how we can work with AI or at AI. So we can build models, build fundamental technology, and we can apply this technology for substantial use cases in companies. And both is important, and we need to, at the same point of time, work on both parts of this AI endeavor. Ultimately, there are already enough good models out there in different flavors from different sources that organizations can use and start to deploy in their business. And there is a couple of examples now coming up in Germany where organizations really start to think of deployment of AI at scale. And deploying AI at scale does not mean if the kids of the CEO use ChatGPT for their homework, that's not equaling a fundamental usage of AI in the appropriate company. Yeah, sorry for that a little bit exaggerated comparison. But organizations need to think about what are the business problems that I want to solve. What is also probably things in terms of knowledge work that I need to capture and conserve, because I mean there is organizations out there who have a clear view that they will get a problem in 5, 8, probably 10 years, looking at the demography of workers that they have. So that's the way we need to think about applying application of AI in a transformative way. And there is one example that I like to share, and it's public knowledge, and they are also talking about that, and we are jointly talking about that, and we are quite proud that we can accompany Sparkasseninformatik, which is the IT company of the Sparkassen, which is actually now called Finanzinformatik. Sorry, I always mix up that branding. They're grumpy if they hear that. But that's not the point. The point is that they are really doubling down on implementing 50 use cases for 50 million customers and 200,000 employees at scale into their business in a sovereign way in their own data centers by keeping the customer data and their company data in their own data center and making use of it in a fundamental approach of deploying AI. And I mean, let's be honest, the Sparkassen do not have the most modern brand probably in Germany. Let's be open that they know that also. But they are one of the companies who are really serious about deploying AI in a transformative way. And that's great to see. We need more of those examples. And that pays into the title of the panel, Good News from Germany. Also companies that wouldn't have the branding.
Yeah. Markus, I believe
starting.
Vanessa has some examples.
Exactly. So let's focus on that point a bit, because I'm talking to a lot of DAX 40 companies, and exactly that's what I'm seeing right now. So most of them have collected a use case collection of like 200, 300, sometimes 400 use cases. So it's not the ideas that are missing. They have a lot of ideas, and it's usually, funnily enough, less the technology, it's more kind of the processes and how people actually talk and connect with each other and how they are skilled. So the entire change management behind it, that's becoming a bottleneck. But what I find quite exciting about this time is in every company I'm talking with right now, they're now setting up kind of a center of excellence for AI that is becoming more of the hub where everything combined around AI is coming together, where business units, which didn't work in like the last couple of years, that worked on AI all by themselves and didn't really know how to actually identify the problems they can fix with AI, so that didn't work out. Then we've seen kind of the shift towards more IT, so IT actually being the responsible unit to identify use cases, which didn't work out because they don't know what the business units have as a problem. So this is kind of the major problem that we're working on right now, and I think everyone has now identified this and is working on kind of a hub and spoke model within an organization to get all these players connected. And it's a huge transformational shift that's going for every company, because these silos have made these corporations really effective these last couple of years, right? So it's a huge transformational shift. It's not so much, I think, down to technology right now. It's more about actually people and processes that are becoming the bottleneck. But I think what's exciting is they've piloted a huge amount. They haven't, because they've only piloted, seen the value behind AI. I've not talked to one board that has said, okay, this is not of any use, we're pushing AI to the side. Everyone is going full force in and saying, okay, let's look at this list again and looking at what's the value behind it, and let's look at maybe 4 or 5 cases, let's simmer it down, those are the high value cases, and let's use this to actually build our tech stack and drive this transformation throughout the organization, because of course budgets are quite low. So you won't get any CIO that gets the budget to its side to actually push this transformation on its own. So you need high value cases that actually refactor this, right, that drive the ROI for the transformation that needs a lot of budgeting.
That sounds like we are from exploration into implementation already.
Into
which
scaling,
is
I would say, scaling some of the
Carsten
cases.
already signaled that he really wants to jump in, so 1 second.
Yes, so we have just, so we have 3 things how we need to build AI in Germany. One is building AI technology, as we do, as some people do within your organization, and so on. The second one is applying AI in the IT department, so building it into processes, into production, so integrating it. And the third one is using AI in practice, sometimes also tools which are openly available. And these are 3 things. And for the third one, I have a suggestion which I also give to many companies, which is when you want to get it throughout the organization, everybody using AI in some way. My suggestion is for every long meeting, so when you have a meeting which is at least 1 hour long, reserve 10 minutes where every participant of the meeting has to make some suggestions how he would solve it when he needs to use AI to solve it. So everybody has to make a suggestion. That's important, because else you have always the same 2 people who do the suggestions and nobody else thinks about AI. But if everybody knows the next meeting I'm attending, I have to say something how to solve this with AI, then you get the spirit into the organization, because then they have to do this just not to look bad.
They can ask AI
Yes.
what they could say, right? But at least they come prepared.
That's right. So, but that's also a good first use. Yeah. So that's a suggestion for the third part for the application in the organizations. And of course, there are lots of other methodologies, and I think you're supporting those with your company.
I think Markus also wants to jump in here. Go ahead.
I wanted to make 2 comments on that, what you said. One is, it sounds like you're leading exactly the right conversations with DAX companies, not only DAX companies, and actually it would be 3 comments. The one that I'm now going to make just jumped into my mind. We need to get rid of just thinking about DAX companies. There is a heavy demand and a heavy ask in the German Mittelstand for using AI. And they need even more help. These are small companies with 3,000, 4,000, maybe 5,000 employees, but probably also with 1 billion or 2 billion or 3, 4 billion of revenue. And they really are seeking for ways to get into a status where they can use AI in a transformative way. And they all, because most of them, or a lot of them are hidden champions, they have some IP that they don't want to put into any anonymous cloud, right? They want to be sure that their data and their IP is secure. So also they need help.
That's also what Vanessa meant earlier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very focused on the DAX companies who I'm speaking with. But Kenza, could you wait for a second? So Kenza is your expert if you're a Mittelständler and need help here when it comes to AI. Absolutely. Often I have talks, fun fact by the side. I know a head of AI of one of the DAX companies who just became a board member, has long expertise in AI, who became a board member of a family company that I know. I connected them. And she was blown away by how far they are coming from a DAX company and seeing that they're actually way further than the company she's working with. So I think many of these are actually very far away, very far ahead, especially family companies, even within like DAX. So looking at kind of the Schwarz Group, for example, it's amazing what they're building around Heilbronn, right? So they are really looking into the future and want to build something that's sovereign, that really gives made in Germany equality in the future again. So they're looking way further ahead than maybe the next quarter goal. So definitely, there's lots of drive.
You have 2 more remarks, right? Yeah.
No, actually one more. The 2 I already made. The one is, that's also in terms of paying into the subject of the panel. That's also good news for you guys, because there will be a lot of demand for help from those companies to take them by the hand, and especially what you rightfully described, supporting them in change management, supporting them by finding the right cases and to implement them, supporting them by how to take the people on this journey.
So to create even more positive spirit, each of you just say one example of something really good, even maybe cool and exciting, that is coming from Germany right now that we already have, that you think already makes us a thought leader or gets us ahead or is a USP. We already touched on a couple of things, but maybe you can just name one thing.
2. Can I name 2?
Always, you can get 2. You get the extra Wurst. Go ahead.
So it's DeepL, and DeepL is also a little bit of a hidden champion, let's call it that way. But recently they have been, and it's a German company, German headquartered, a lot of the people sit in Germany. Still, of course, they are also having international operations. They are pretty successful in Asia also. They do a lot of business in Japan, for example. And they have just been rated by ZDNet being the 3rd most popular AI tool globally.
Wow.
Ahead of Gemini, ahead of DALL-E, ahead of Perplexity. I mean, that's awesome. That's a German company. And in that ranking of ZDNet, they have been rated globally best AI translation tool, ahead of Google Translate. So
what's
that alone
the second one?
Amazing. Black Forest Labs. They have built an amazing picture model, imaging model, to create new content based on that. Very much appreciated in the global media and advertising scene, and I'm pretty sure that there will be more amazing stuff coming out from them as we are collaborating with them. We're helping them a little bit in terms of the research that they do. But it's also ultimately it's a German company in Schwarzwald. Yeah.
So that's 2 company examples. Do we have other types of examples of what's already cool?
So making Marcus happy, maybe one collaboration that I find really impressive between Accenture and NVIDIA actually on leveraging the NVIDIA Omniverse actually was with a company called Kion. And what we did here is we actually created a digital twin for their shop floor, because shop floors are increasingly difficult to handle, right? They're so complex on which robot has to move in which aisle, how do they cross each other, and so on. And this digital twin is actually mapping everything that will happen 2 seconds later before it actually happens. So it's creating kind of this environment where you can play through and find the best ways, also the most sustainable ways of getting from A to B. And I think there's a huge momentum within like what's reasonable now with digital twins, and also in the field of physical AI, where I actually have a lot of hope that Germany, with its engineering skills, might actually stand a really good chance in making LLMs not only a good tool within the digital world, but now making them becoming human, or creating kind of a realistic environment now in the real world, where LLMs are becoming more and more a body, right?
What I hear a lot is partnerships, collaborations, cross-industry, people working together to bring together things. And I think that's also very good news, because like you said, we had more of a culture, don't compete, you know, we are all in our little corner doing our own thing. We heard before, we are still having a culture of everybody invents the same thing just so they own it. So this is really good news to see that. Carsten, what's your...
So I can say something which is not products or companies. I'm in several juries. Among them is Jugend gründet, so that's the kind of pupils who have a business idea while they're at school. There are about 5,000 people attending every year. So I'm in the final jury for the last 10, and I can say they are very fantastic people. I started myself at 16 with the first company and also made disruptive innovations. And this is still possible. It's not that Gen Z is just, or Gen Alpha is just not able to do this. There are still these people who want to change the world, who invent great things, and who also have a lot of energy to do that. And not like, okay, yes, but I need to do it in a maximum of 4 work days per week or so. There are still people who are working at night every day, every weekend to accomplish their idea. And it's both in Jugend gründet, also in KI Bundeswettbewerb. I'm also in that jury. And they're so fantastic people. Like somebody, for example, who was 16 when he started. He invented for microscopy, to find cancer cells in blood samples. And he invented something that bet everything in the world so far, because he made some changes in the picture, in the object detection algorithms, which had not been invented before, and he changed something, and it's better than everything else in the world. So he beats the state of the art. When he was 17, he already achieved that.
I think that's a really important point, because even in this bubble and also in the KMU bubble, a lot of people say, okay, basically we're on our own. You know, we know what we should do, but it's only us. How can we do it? But hearing that there is a growing generation that can boost this and carry this, with everybody who's in this room as well, is very good news. So maybe we can add the question of what role do you think academia plays at the moment, and is it played well in Germany, like universities and maybe even other types of education that you can see? I know this is a topic that you are also involved with. Maybe we start with you.
So I think the role is, we're focusing on hope now.
Yes, please.
I think there's a huge strength to actually build the role of academia to a much larger one than it's currently having, because I don't actually see that many partnerships yet at a larger scale between corporates and academia, or Mittelstand and academia.
What kind of partnerships would you be looking for?
So I think there's a lot of great people from academia working on like cutting edge technology and IP that would be hugely relevant to many of the companies out there, but they just don't find their way together, right? So academia isn't really approaching the economy and businesses, but the other way around, I think there's not that much of a close connect, despite maybe a study or trying to hire the best top talent kind of coming from university. And I think there's a huge potential here, actually. And there's a couple of maybe best practices on how to do it. One was here earlier with Rafael Laguna, certainly with the Agentur für Sprunginnovation, which I think is a hugely important player here in this field, and I'm really grateful for the work they're doing. The other one, because we're in Berlin, I think there's always a comparison to Unternehmertum in Munich, right? So there's a lot of really visible and great people working on ecosystems here in Berlin, but it's always very separated, and I wish it would be combined much more together, like Unternehmertum is doing around the TU Munich with kind of all ecosystem players, from SMEs to investors to startups, coming from kind of university to corporates and so on, all working very closely together on like the most important topics and building around AI. And I would wish that would happen more, because we're really strong when it comes to foundational research. And I think the Transformer paper and everything happening within the LLM space that found its kind of origin in Germany, right? Or Stable Diffusion, another example from LMU Munich, is showing so much that we're bringing the papers out, but sadly we're not the ones making the money off of it. And I would wish that would happen much more, be it in spin-offs or be it kind of with corporations between corporates and or Mittelstand.
I wonder if that's also a mindset thing again, that corporates think they have to invent it by themselves, or they have to come up with it by themselves to be worth something, or that they already feel they're approaching people enough. But this whole, it takes more brains than just one team, even if you have a team and you want to scale it and you have the use cases. I think that's a very clear demand to also the economy and the industry leaders and the academia to work more closely together and make this a practical, not just theoretical kind of working relationship. Right? Do you want to add something?
Well, I was just spinning that around in my head, what you just said, and you added to that there is, I mean, there was a lot of good points in it. We do have a lot of good academia and research on AI in Germany. We have DFKI, we have the machine learning competence centers. I would also agree that it's a little bit too fragmented. It's always a little bit which federal state is having which organization in terms of academia, and who we are again with comparing, right, the two choose classes, who is getting more funding, and if A gets funding X, then B also needs to get funding X, because otherwise we mess up this whole federal approach. In terms of, let me try to stay focused on the good stuff, that there is a lot of good talent here. I think we can all help, and also in our functions here, we can help this ecosystem to connect better across the borders. And borders, I mean in terms of federal states, in terms of parts of the ecosystems, and then also in terms of academia and usage, because it's still a little bit separated. The research in academia and the usage of AI, I think we can do a little bit better in connecting the good stuff that is happening in academia to fundamental usage.
Now we're already in the middle of saying this is already good, and with a little bit of tweaking, it could be even better. So we want to focus on Aufbruchsstimmung, yeah? Like how can we be positive about what we have here? Do we have examples of what could we tweak a little bit?
Yes, both that, and I'm saying something to academia. I think for academia we have to distinguish between two things. One is getting enough people to do the work that has to be done with some brain and some knowledge in the companies. And that's very important. So the majority of the academia, of the master students and so on, are going to do this. But then we have the people who bring the world forward, the people who invent something new. And for them, university is not a place where they learn the things they have to learn at university. For them, the key thing is peer group. You have to have other people with whom you can discuss your ideas. And that could be professors, but can also be some other talented, ultra-talented people. And peer group is the key thing in university. And I think that there should be more effort in university to bring the peer groups together, instead of just trying to optimize them to learn the best things. So like when you do law, when you do law, you learn all day and all night. When you do medicine, you learn all day, all night. You just have to sit down with your books instead of exchange with the other people, because the curriculum just wants you to know all this. But what you should actually do, if you're really talented, is exchange with the other people.
But that's why all of you are involved in so many communities, right? You are doing this outside of academia, and I've talked to a lot of people here who have started communities for female people, for every kind of specialty and industry that you can think of. But this is also, I think, they exist, they are good, and you can become a member of it, and most of the time you don't even have to pay for it. So just find your peers, and you can find them. It's also a good
aspect. But
aspect.
university could also do this actively in some way, and I think it's not done enough. That's my impression.
Now, what can we tweak? Who wants to start? What can we tweak to be even better?
I would say one thing, incentives. And I think that no matter in which area you look, be it academia, I think academia often also funded actually a lot by federal government, right? Do not get the incentives to actually say, okay, how to transfer this in an actual product and an actual service. So the transfer is not happening because it's very much kind of focused on, okay, we have this project, we're continuing it from start to end, and after the 5 years we're getting funded. We don't really care what's happening with this project. So these would be kind of incentives that research would need. I think it's also incentives when I'm seeing, I talked a lot about kind of transformation and especially change management within corporations. What I often see is that just in the employees within our companies, they don't really have any incentives to be bold, right?
So you just expect them to be, right?
Yeah,
Right.
well, you don't even expect them to be that much. You just expect them to kind of work on the job at hand, I think, in a way. But so we focus very much on kind of failure culture in that way, that if you fail in something, your head could roll, but you're not really incentivized to think bold, and making bold steps also usually
Like
means
intrapreneurism
you
in a way,
can make mistakes, right? So going this way and saying, okay, I'm pushing for something, I'm thinking big, I want to change something within the organization, is something that's just not there. Simple example, actually, what I realized with kind of the entire rollout of systems like, I don't know, all these My GPTs, so ChatGPT formats, knowledge management systems that companies have employed. A lot of these employees are being said, hey, we have this new system, please use it, but please don't use it for this and this and this, and don't give in that IP and don't give in that data. So you can do so many things wrong that people are actually scared of using it, right? And so I think we really need the incentives of, hey, this is a good transition, it's good for you, this is in it for you, and this communication is actually lacking, and also the KPIs that go in that direction are lacking.
Interesting. What do you want to tweak?
I mean, again, I'm always trying to stick to the headline of the panel. Let's look what is good, what is working, and what is successful, and copy that. And copy not in a negative way by abusing intellectual property, but by copying successful approaches. And I like the thing about failure culture, which you said, which ties up to Stefan's keynote this morning. He said that at DeepL they have a specific culture for failure in his team, and Stefan leads research, right? So let's look at those examples. Let's look at who has been successful in terms of how a company has been set up, and let's copy that. And also, probably it's good to think a little bit more why not instead of yes but. We are good in thinking yes but, yeah, and but is always then the problem that we find. Let's think a little bit more in why not terms. And also this is, if we look at things that are happening in a positive way. There is, in those companies, there is this mindset.
What if
Yeah,
we succeed? What if it goes well?
You're not going to build a successful company, a successful team, or a successful strategy by steadily saying, yes, but. That won't work. Yeah, that would set the wrong mindset to the team.
Carsten, before you start with what you want to tweak, think about if you have, I think we have time for one question at least, so if anybody has a question, I'm going to let Carsten say what he wants to tweak, and if anybody has a question, we can pick that up. Otherwise, we have stuff to talk about as well, so. Carsten.
Okay, so I have, again, a slightly different opinion. So I think what you both said is probably very important, because most people don't have goals, and if you don't have goals, you cannot incentivize on KPIs and so on. And that is when you have targeted innovation, when you do something where you want to achieve a goal. Now, which innovation would you have set so that Einstein invents relativity theory? What kind of innovation what kind of incentive do you set for that? I can think up nothing for that. What you need to have is freedom. You need to have people who really want. So, of course, 90% of success or so is not the innovation. It's how to build a company out of this, how to get this. So you need all these best practices and KPIs for most of the work you do. But when you need this one special ingredient of innovation, what you mostly need is take away the barriers, take away the yes buts, take away all those things, and let people just do. And this is not what we currently do in academia or at school and so on. So I stopped doing homework when I was in 8th grade, and I told all teachers. And fortunately, I had a good headmaster who allowed that, so that the teachers could not really push me out of school or so. And I learned so many other things, because I took my time for doing everything. And I think you need to have these, to go away from these barriers you have for those people or for those ideas that need real innovation.
We are back to trust.
Yes.
Trust your people,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, right.
trust the
Yeah.
process, you know, that it's going to go. I saw there's a question over there. I'm going to come. Because, very good. I'm improvising, but the colleague...
But let me say maybe quickly,
Yes.
so it's funny, right? We came here for an AI panel, so
Right.
everyone would think we would talk about technology, and then it's actually a
can.
culture that
People.
eats
We are all
AI
able
for
to do
breakfast,
that.
right?
Yeah, very good. The question.
Yeah, culture eats AI at breakfast at all? No, I have another question, or maybe a thought. What would be if we could inspire people, if we could bring success stories out in Germany? So you brought a lot of good examples, you brought a lot of good insight, what a good entrepreneur makes the whole day and makes it successful, but a lot of people, except us of course, doesn't know that. So what would be if we change some sort of a mindset? So I have no idea, I work in a company, so I have no idea how to bring it out of the people into communities, but to be an inspiration, to be an idol, to show positive use cases in Europe, and just not but Deep L. I mean, they have a good implementation of what they did. They are successful by principle. But what made them successful to bring it to other people, to spread the word in Europe?
Yeah.
What would that be?
So to paraphrase, how do we make people do good and talk about it? Yeah, create good use cases and talk about it. Is it just a PR problem, or is there something else? I mean, it could be just do PR and marketing. But how do we get people to? Are they so deep into the work that they don't have time to talk about it, or how could we get them to teach others, to inspire others? What do you think?
We're back at culture. We're again back to your point. It's about culture. It's about culture. You know, to think positive, about looking at positive examples rather than comparing what others have. To focus on the qualities and on the strengths that we have. It's not going into the, or it's not on the point answering the question, because the question was, what if? I mean, what if it would be great? Then we would have a lot more breakthroughs coming from Germany.
You mean if the culture was great, or if more people were talking about how great it is, or?
If we would use, I guess that was the question, how I understood, if we would use more of the best example, of the good examples, and copy them.
So I I think we do have a disconnect between the technology side of things, where I think often also the startups that we bring to the table are really, really strong, and between the UX and the communication and marketing around it. I think this is something where our AI ecosystem in Germany really has to grow. There's so many players that often from the US are really strong in marketing, and when you look at the tech stack behind it, it's often not as founded as maybe a competitor from Europe, and this is plainly due to marketing. And
it's mindset also.
People
don't like talking about themselves so much.
I think this is also this half-full perspective, right? We also don't like talking about our successes, and we have to get better at this. But it's also, I think, getting worlds together much more interdisciplinary, actually, from a technology perspective. So just to give you a recent example, I spoke to a big retailer last week, and what they're doing is, he told me all about, what's the name for it, like Einzelhändler, so very kind of blue-collar jobs, so people that are cashiers within a supermarket chain. And he's focusing on digital products around this. And he said, hey, we have all these digital products we're bringing out. They're really cool. Our team has done a great job. And finally, at the cashier, and if we look at our employees that are sitting behind the cashier, they're not using these products. Mm-hmm. So can you please help me put more AI literacy in these people, educate them? And I was like, I don't know if you have an education problem here, actually, so much as more of a UX problem, and probably also a marketing problem, in that sense that your employees are probably frightened that their job is being taken away. So it's often we're so much focused on, okay, we're missing the skills from a technological point of view, and not thinking about, okay, this product has to be so simple that you just can't miss the red button that you have to press, right?
It is so true. Yeah, because the change communication, the internal communication around these things is most often forgotten. Mm-hmm. It's like, and they do an awesome product, and then they don't do the marketing for it. So it's very difficult then to be known for it, right?
And also the product more from a back-end perspective, not so much from a front-end perspective and the UX around it.
It's the empathy to discover the story to tell, right? Yeah, Carsten, we are on the last minute. So
I just want to say, I think the most important thing we can do as Germany is to also take away the jealousy. Because when you're in some way successful...
Back to the comparison.
When you're in some way successful in Germany, that means that normally you get negative press because you're...
too successful, better than others.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, it's good as long as you're just an inventor at university, but most of the people at university are afraid to become successful because then they will be negative in society, because then suddenly they're rich. And rich is not good by our societal thing. Currently, we've seen the Linke rising a lot in the left election, in the last election, and that's because they actually put things like, ist ein Einkauf zu teuer, macht ein Konzern Kasse, and everything that is associated with good money is negatively associated, and that's not good. So, I mean, I never did my things for money. I just did them because I wanted to invent something. But then in the end, when you suddenly make money with it, it should not be negative.
In Cologne, we say, man muss auch gönnen können.
Yeah,
That goes in that direction. I think it's a good way to end this, because I think we saw there's actually a lot of good news happening, and we can be positive, and especially the people in this room who are changing the future should not be influenced by this negative talk and the toxicity that's sometimes involved. So we are all still here. Feel free to connect and ask questions after. Thank you for being here. We see you around.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for moderating the panel. As a Schwabe, I have to say, alles ist zu teuer. Aber in the case, I wish you, however, we have now a half an hour break. Back again at 16:45, and the panel is about AI for society. See you in 30 minutes. Thank you.